Hi, class. So today I'm going to make a video for you about how to make a contact sheet. We have already taken our pictures in the studio. You've worked on self portraits. You have saved your work, um, edited your pictures in Adobe Lightroom. So now comes the final step. We're going to be looking at how to make a contact sheet. A contact sheet for a photographer is a collection of all our photos that we took. It could be a collection of all your best photos or just your roll of film that you have. In this case, we edited 15 of our photos that we took in our studio. If you have more, if you have less, that's okay. We can adjust it. But let me show you some examples before we create one of some of the different types of contact sheets made by photographers of the past. Contact sheets were very important during when we would do film photography. That's working with film. As you can see, when we have the rolls of film, it is much easier to put together in a contact sheet for um, the purpose of a contact sheet is usually for a photographer to work with a client. A client is someone that is looking to hire a photographer for, let's say, a magazine, a business, an album cover. Um, we can have business pictures. So the photographer in their studio would take pictures and would create a contact sheet where they would put all the photos. And if you could see here in this particular contact sheet, we have X's on pictures that perhaps does not fit the need of the client at all. We have some circled that, and some of them squared off in red. It's usually a way for the photographer to and the client to both agree and say that these are some of the top or best photos. As you can see here, I think both the client and the photographer were really happy with this photo over here. It looks like this one could have been the perfect photo for that project that they were working on. This one for sure, I am very familiar with. I'm a huge fan of David Bowie. I do know that this is a photography session by Mick Rock. One of these did make the album cover to this famous David Bowie album. And it's no surprise that the one highlighted in red is would make the famous album cover for David Bowie. So it's great to see some of the choices that could have been. Um, but usually, photographers and the clients look for the strongest photo, the one that has the carries the emotion of the person in front of the camera, maybe what the title or what the magazine is asking for. Um, it could be that it has the strongest composition with facial features, hands. It could be aligned perfectly. There are so many decisions that are being made to choose the best photo. Um, Sometimes we can make the best decision at the moment. Sometimes we can make the worst, but it's fantastic to see what could have been the choices and what made the famous album cover. Okay, so now that I've shown you some different examples, and you can always go ahead and Google some photography contact sheets. Let's go ahead and take a look of how to create a contact sheet using Adobe Photoshop. So to open Photoshop, you'll need to go to the bottom of your computer and we're going to go ahead and go to the launch pad. Sometimes your other students from previous classes have the Adobe Photoshop already here at the bottom of the taskbar. However, if you don't, just go over here to the launch pad. From the launch pad, you're going to see all your different applications from Adobe. We're going to go ahead and choose the one that says Adobe Photoshop 2022. Hopefully, all the computers have been updated to 2022. I haven't seen a huge amount of changes from the previous versions, but we're going to go ahead and select this Photoshop. Okay. Um, Sometimes Photoshop, they'll ask you to log in using your student ID and your student email and password. On the top right corner of Photoshop, you should see where it logs in with your account on here and the different applications that go along with your account. So double check to see if your name is on there. If not, go ahead and ask me, and I'll go ahead and help you. But since we're making a very quick contact sheet, if somebody's logged in over here, for now that's okay because the contact sheet is very quick to make. All right, so here we're not going to create a new file. We're not going to open any photos yet. In order to create a contact sheet, we're going to have to open Photoshop. When we open Photoshop, we're going to go to the top left and we're going to go here to where it says File. From the drop down menu on File, we're going to go down to where it says Automate. We have a few more choices in Automate. Here we're going to see one that says Contact Sheet 2. So we're going to go ahead and create our contact sheet here on this from this choice, Contact Sheet 2. So go ahead and click on it. All right, so we're going to start from the top over here, top left, and we're going to work our way down. The image source, first thing, we're going to have to choose all our photos, not from a file, but from a folder. That's why it's important yesterday that we saved all our edited pictures inside a folder that has your name. So we're going to choose the folder, not a file. Underneath that, we're going to choose the folder that has your finished pictures with your name. So we're going to go ahead and click choose. All right, now many of you have saved your portraits in documents. From documents, you should see a folder. Mine has way too many, but yours should have a folder on here that has your name and finished pictures. If yesterday you did not save it in documents, you must have left it in desktop. Um, in my case, I am going to show you Mohammed's pictures over here. So mine was in desktop. It's got Mohammed's first and last name. Or I could just show you this one. Actually, this is probably better, where you're going to need to put portraits finished and your first and last name. Now, we're not going to select any of the photos because we're trying to select the entire folder. What I would like you to do before we open it is I want you to count how many photos you have because it's going to be really important when we do our contact sheet. In this case, Muhammad has 11 photos. So it's about 4 or 5 photos shy from about 15 or 16 photos that we were required. So we're going to go ahead and work with 11, and I'm going to round it up to an even number. I'm going to round it up to 12, and you'll see why in a second. So just remember, count how many photos you have, and we're going to click on open. All right. Over here, we are going to um, we'll make sure the units are in inches. Um, for the width and the height, um, let's see if we could change the height to 19 and the width to 13. Um, it doesn't matter for now because we're going to crop our photos, but this kind of helps us make a portrait orientation rather than a landscape one. So I'm just going to put 13 for the width and 19 for the height. All right. Now this is important over here where the thumbnails, the pictures. These are the pictures are going to be called thumbnails, and we're going to select use auto spacing. You're going to do across first. Now here's where we have to do just a little bit of math. So Muhammad has 11 photos. You always want to round up because there may be one or two pictures missing, and that's okay. So for 11 photos, we can round up to 12 for Muhammad. So for a column, we can do two columns, and since he has 12, let's see, we're going to do 6 over here. So 6 times 2 is 12. Just make sure you have enough that it could carry all your photos. If you have 14 photos, you may want to do, if you have 14, do 3 and do 5 so that way you can have 15 photos, round up. If you have 10 photos, that's easy. You can do 2 and 5, and that will be 10 for your 10 pictures. In this case, I think I'm going to break it up a little bit. I'm going to do instead 3 and 4 rows here, just to kind of break it up a little bit. So I'm going to do a column of 3, 4 rows. If you multiply this together, that's about 12. Now make sure that rotate for best fit. Make sure that this is selected off. We do not need this on. So go ahead and click off if you have a check mark. If it already does not have a check mark, just leave it off right there. And that's it. We're going to go ahead and create our contact sheet. So we're going to go back over here and we're going to click OK. Notice over here in the layers panel, they're creating our pictures. All right. So here we have our contact sheet with all the 11 photos. Um, what we can do is if your photos are spread out too much and you want to put them together, make sure over here on the left side in the tools panel, make sure that we are selecting the first tool, which is called the move tool. So make sure this is selected because we're going to be moving our pictures. Now, I can move each picture just a little bit. I like to give a little bit of a border. Now, notice that whenever I move this, you'll see how there's some locking. It'll kind of guide you a little bit at the top here. So this one's a little too top. Right there, it locks in perfectly. There we go. And you'll see a line across where the nose is. That'll tell you there's a line perfectly in the middle. And let's go ahead and do that. Right. This one a little bit higher. There we go. That's locked in even better. So, okay. Let's see, this one probably a little bit higher. Now, when you have your contact photos together, make sure visually with your eye that everything looks aligned and looks perfectly neat. Make sure the edges go along straight. And what we're going to do with this empty space is we're going to go to our tools panel and 5 uh, tools down. We're going to see one that says crop. So we're going to go ahead and click on the crop tool, or you can press the letter C on your keyboard. And you'll notice now that in the corners here, we can drag our the sides over here to where we would like to have it. So I'm going to do just about over here because visually this looks okay. I think that'll do. In my eyes, it looks like it makes sense. If it doesn't look good, I can always go back. But once you like the way the photo is, go to the top of here where the check mark is. Go ahead and click on the check mark. And now your photos are in a contact sheet put together here. All right. So this is step one of how to make a contact sheet. I'm going to put this video on Canvas. Go ahead and put that together. Um, After you do the crop tool, make sure to go back to the first tool over here called the move tool. The move tool is it's like our home button. That way, just in case you click on something or mess up, the move tool won't be that damaging as other ones over here. All right, next, what you're going to do is you're going to go to File, and we're going to click on Save As. We're going to call this Contact Sheet. Put your first and last name. Make sure that this is saved on your computer. So over here, it says on your computer. Now, I would save it in that same folder that you have your portraits finished. So locate your folder, whether it's in the desktop or documents. I'm going to go over here where it says portraits finished. And we're going to save the contact sheet as a Photoshop file for right now. So we're going to click on save. Click OK. And you have your very first contact sheet. We have come a long way. This is a great feat for you because we have learned the parts of the camera. We learned about the exposure triangle. We did self-portraits. We worked with one soft light. So we can create a dramatic amount of shadow. You did the self-portraits, worked on your computer, introduced you to both Lightroom and Photoshop to create what many professional photographers create for their clients, which is making a contact sheet. So congratulations on making it this far. We have quite a few more things to learn, But this is pretty exciting because now projects will become a lot more understandable, and you get to create most of the projects on your own now if you are able to understand the process.